Welcome back to Steel City Drones. Today, we're going to talk about a drone that a lot of people have been asking us to talk about and do a review on. So that's what we're going to do today. So with everything that's going on currently right now in the United States with drones, everybody is looking for more of a blue list certified type of drone. This is the Freefly Astro. Now, if you're not too familiar with Freefly, Freefly has been around for a very long time. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, they have been around longer than DJI. I started flying drones right around 2011, started building my own drones. And by then, Freefly was already a company out there. Now, they started out as more of a cinema type of company, offering like camera stabilizers. They were the first to be able to come up with that technology. The owner of the company, Tab, started flying drones and building his own drones in the early 2000s. And my very first drone that I built was called a Cinestar 8, and it had a lot of the little pieces that had from that drone that Freefly made, including the first set of gimbals. And even back then, they were radiant stabilized gimbals back then. So obviously, everything has come a long way. So when they did first come out and make their own drone in 2016, I was one of the first 5 people to have that drone. So I'm very familiar with Freefly and a lot of their different type of drones that they've had out there. So over the years, they've just been continuing to improve their products. And now what they have come out with is what's called the Astro. And now the Astro is primarily made for the enterprise and commercial line of drones and those use cases. So if you really have a use case where you really need a true blue certified and or NDAA certified drone for the areas where you live or the jobs that you do, and a lot of the specialized type of use cases for LiDAR and mapping and also agriculture, that's basically everything that you need right here. So the Astro, as well as the remote controller, comes in 2 different configurations. So we have a non-NDAA / non-blue certification controller and drone situation, and that's what we have right here for this setup, and it's using Freefly's HereLink connection. Then we also have a dedicated blue certified and NDAA controller. Now, it's important to note that all Astros are Blue List and NDAA certified, but what's going to determine whether or not your entire system is Blue List and NDAA certified is the remote controller that you're going to end up purchasing. So in some cases, they are certified, and in some cases, they're not. The ones that are NDAA certified are going to cost more money. With the Freefly Astro, it comes in 2 versions. This is the original version here, and this has an overall payload capacity of 1,500 grams, which is approximately 3.3 pounds, and gives us a flight time of approximately 26 to 28 minutes. Now, this is the Freefly Astro Max. This is brand new. This gives us overall 60% more thrust capability, as well as a maximum payload capacity of 3,000 grams, which is approximately 6.6 pounds. Now, with a payload on here of about 1,000 grams, we're going to get approximately 26 to 28 minutes of flight time. When we have the maximum payload capacity on here of about 3,000 grams, this is going to give us a maximum flight time of approximately 16 to 18 minutes. So there's more than 16 different camera configurations that we can run with this. We can run LiDAR cameras, we can run mapping cameras, we can run multi-purpose cameras with thermal and zoom. So we have everything at our disposal just for about any type of use case. So there's a lot of flexibility in what we can do. Now this has the Sony LR1 camera on it, but we can also put Centera cameras on here. Again, just about anything that we need to be able to do that. Pricing for the Astro starts approximately $20,000 and will go up depending upon which payload that you're going to select and whether or not you need an NDAA Blue List certification. As far as portability goes, you can see the drone folds up into a nice small square and fits into a small portable case that we can go ahead and put into any size vehicle. As far as the overall setup goes, it is very straightforward, very easy. We can go ahead and unpack this and get all the gear up and put the camera in it, since it's a really quick release dovetail in about 1 minute completely. So all of the booms are on a locking system, latch system. So to open it back up, we're just going to go ahead and take all of the booms to the right. And you'll see they are double locked in here so that these booms cannot open or start unfolding themselves in the middle of a flight. And as far as how long it's going to take to be able to go ahead and get up the fly will depending upon which remote that you have. Our non-Blue List and non-NDAA remote controller here takes between 3 to 4 minutes after we power it up for it to be able to go through all the initializations, loading the apps on the tablet, and to be able to communicate with the drone itself. The aircraft does take 2 batteries to fly it. Freefly guarantees the 6S Superlight SL8 air batteries for an industry-leading 500 charge cycles. The batteries have a secondary locking system where it has one major one that will at least take it off of the connector and one more to actually take it off the rail. Just like that. Now we need there is no like master charger for this where we can actually put like 6 or 8 of them in like a Pelican type of case. So we have a dedicated charger that will charge 1 battery. So let's say, for example, you want to actually have a total of 6 batteries. Then if you want to charge them all at the same time, you would have to have 6 chargers. And we've noticed flight time is approximately 25 to 26 minutes, going from 100 down to 20%. We never try to fly any battery below 20%. We also have RTK on here. With RTK, we can either use N-Trip or Freefly's base station. Now, to use N-Trip, you have to have a dedicated network card in the controller, because for the aircraft to work, we cannot have the wireless internet connection going to the remote controller. Now, this aircraft is not compatible with other third-party base stations at the moment. As far as the remote controller, this is what's called Freefly's Pilot Pro. Now, I know that Tab himself was heavily involved into the design of this to his specifications, what he wanted, and it really symbolizes what Freefly does for customization for their flying clients. So we have a bunch of different knobs up here that will allow us to trim the flight characteristics of what we're looking for. So if we want something more aggressive, all we got to do is turn the knob right here and we can get a very aggressive flight attitude where the attitude of the aircraft can really get really close to 45 degrees. So it can be very, very aggressive, and we could turn it all the way in the sensitivity, all the completely the opposite, to where it's barely moving. The same way with a knob for the height. So if we want to be able to go higher and faster up and down, we can trim that, as well as if we want to be really delicate with our up and down control, we can go the opposite way. And then we also have separate controls as well for the sensitivity of the camera controls. Now, what I really like about this remote after using it for a lot of different flights right here is it's a very rugged, robust controller, and it really fits in the palm of your hands really, really well. And it's not heavy. But it's rugged but not heavy. And the controls are engineered and spaced out perfectly so that you can't really accidentally hit a knob or a button or a switch. And I often have done that, like say with the RC Pro remote, for example. There's a lot of buttons I'm hitting on the sides, on the bottom, and I hear a beep, and it's like, what did I hit? Whereas this right here, they don't add a tremendous amount of, there's different switches right here and buttons, so we can configure this really to anything that we need, but it's not excessive to the point of where we don't need something. And that's what I really, really like about this. Now, if I'm going to be completely honest with you, just like any Android tablet on the market, I am not crazy about the brightness. So, you really want to start looking at to make sure that you get a remote controller that has an HDMI out. This one right here that we have does not have an HDMI out, and we have to be able to try to do something wirelessly, and we not have been able to really screencast this successfully trying to do that. So that's one thing, I wish that, that's just a limitation to all Android tablets, if we're being honest. And what's really nice about this tablet is this has the ability to swing out like this, and then use the button here to unlock it, to twist it. And now we can use it in this configuration just like that, and more of a traditional type of a powered configuration, which is exactly the way I like it, and I'm used to flying it exactly like this as well. But you have the option for using it either way. So lots of great things here that we have, and it's just going to get better from going on from here. So now let's talk about the Flight app. Overall, the main page has a very similar layout compared to DJI and Autel. The top of the screen is very similar to DJI on how everything is laid out. The position of the map is exactly in the same place. Aircraft telemetry is in the bottom right-hand side. And we can go ahead and configure the different flight modes and the channels in a fairly straightforward manner. We can also change the camera lens settings actually on the camera, or just put it in auto and let the app be able to do all the adjustments like most people are used to. In the app, we have all the aircraft data such as system health, the sensors, and remote ID. So now that we talked about how we can fine-tune our flight parameters as far as how the aircraft responds, whether we want something a lot more aggressive or something that's more docile, how does it actually fly? So we have a lot of test data with this aircraft. We have our initial testing that we did at the office, but we also decided to use this aircraft for a very specific job that required to be flown over a lake over 5 days consecutively. So we were flying this aircraft from sunrise to sunset, and we were taking data 6 times a day. So we had about a good 8 hours of solid flying for 5 straight days over a lake. So how does it fly? So my impressions are this overall. When I get this up in the air, I find that the remote controller is really very responsive with the drone, meaning there's no dead space in here. And so if I'm going to go ahead and just do a little roll to the left, it responds very quickly. Sometimes we have remote controllers that they have either a little bit of delay or there's a little bit of dead space. They really did a real good job of fine-tuning these controls. And again, with all that precision that we have with the knobs, that even increases that amount of control and precision that we have over this. Again, we're talking about a company that started out with cinema, where they were actually using their equipment for a lot of films out there. So they had to really get the flying part of it right. That's what I can tell you for sure, and I find it to have been very smooth and very controlled and very stabilized. So the GPS is planted, and I would say that we have not had a chance to run this with RTK, but overall, I would say I would definitely imagine that it would be a lot better in RTK mode, even that much more planted. The aircraft has been tested to a rating of IP43, which protects against solid objects larger than 1 millimeter and against water spray from any direction up to 60 degrees angle from the vertical. This makes it suitable for protection against dust and light rain. So, if this is something that you're interested in, we are a Freefly reseller. So if you want to talk about your own situation, we'll be glad to sit down and talk to you, call us on the phone, and we can tell you all the different camera configurations that are available and the different options that might work for you and help you really narrow down what you want to give you an exact quote. So with that said, if you have any questions, pick up the phone, give us a call, drop us an email, put them down in the comment section below. We'll be glad to talk to you. So with that said, thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.